She just won the gold medal and she didn't cry. Instead, she turned to her rivals, the people who had just lost to her, and quietly began to applaud them. Millions of people around the world watched those few seconds of footage and went completely silent. Comment sections exploded in English, German, Korean, French, and Spanish. And somehow, everyone was saying the exact same thing. This is what real strength looks like. But here's what I need you to understand: that applause, that's not even the most important part of this story. Because before that moment, there was a night nobody talks about. A night inside a dark hotel room where a grown man sobbed for hours. And right beside him sat a young woman who never once looked away, never flinched, never gave up. That night is why the applause happened. That night is why a free program score of 158.13 points, a world all-time record, became reality. That night is why a stunning comeback from 5th place after the short program didn't just happen, it had to happen. How much of this story do you actually know? If you only saw the gold medal moment, I'm asking you to stay until the very end. Because the real miracle didn't begin on the ice. It began in that dark, quiet room the night before. February 2026, Milan. Riku Miura and Ryuichi Kihara, known together as Riku Ryu, left behind something that no scorecard or world record can fully capture. What they left behind was proof of what it means to be human. And in this video, I'm going to lay out every piece of that proof. As I followed this story, I kept experiencing a strange sensation, like the very definition of strength was being dismantled and rebuilt right in front of me. The world has always told us that strength means hiding your emotions. Keep it together. Don't let them see you sweat. Riku Ryu proved the complete opposite. The person who broke down crying the night before came back and shattered the world record the very next day. Has there ever been a more powerful rebuttal in the history of sports? I genuinely can't think of one. On short program day, the ice arena in Milan was absolutely packed. Fans from every corner of the globe held their breath as Miura and Kihara stepped onto the rink. The opening triple twist lift was gorgeous, clean, precise, breathtaking. The jumps that followed were right on track. And then, just as everyone started to believe this was their night, it happened. On their most powerful weapon, the lift, something went wrong. Kihara lost his balance. Miura wobbled. It wasn't a catastrophic fall, but it was an unmistakable mistake, Riku Ryu-like, almost painfully ordinary. And the timing couldn't have been worse. The score came up, 73.11 points, more than 9 points below their personal best. They sat in 5th place. The gap between them and the German pair ahead? 6.9 points. Commentators chose their words carefully. A difficult situation, they said. Some media outlets had already quietly started redirecting their gold medal predictions elsewhere. The dream ending the world had been watching for was being rewritten in real time. Now, let me stop here and ask you something. That 9-point gap on a scoreboard? It's just a number. But the weight of that number, that's something entirely different. Because behind those digits are thousands of hours of practice. Dozens of moments where they almost quit. And the daily choice to keep going anyway. Numbers never tell the full human story. When I saw 73.11, I didn't see a score. I felt 6 years of weight pressing down on it. And I'm willing to bet that kind of pain failing at the absolute worst possible moment is something most of us have felt at some point in our own lives. To truly understand what happened next, we need to go back a bit. Ryuichi Kihara is a craftsman, a man of few words who has quietly, relentlessly sharpened his craft over years. At one point, he's admitted he felt embarrassed about the discipline he'd chosen. Pairs figure skating has long had limited recognition in Japan. The idea of a man performing alongside a partner just doesn't carry the same cultural weight that singles skating does. And yet he kept going. Not for validation, not for applause. Simply because continuing was the only thing he knew how to do. Riku Miura, on the other hand, walks around with a wide, radiant smile, and hidden behind that smile is a mental toughness that borders on terrifying. When the two first skated together, they both described it as feeling like lightning. Something completely beyond words was present in that pairing from the very beginning. But the road was anything but smooth. Technical setbacks, physical injuries, periods of real psychological struggle. They climbed through all of it to reach Milan. So when that lift went wrong, it wasn't just a technical error. It was like every single one of those 6+ years had cracked open all at once. After the short program, Kihara returned to their hotel and cried. Not for a few minutes, for hours. And sitting right beside him the entire time was Riku Miura. Normally, it's Kihara who serves as the emotional anchor, the steady force who keeps Miura grounded. But that night, the roles quietly shifted. Through all of it, Miura never once looked away. She didn't let anxiety creep onto her face. She didn't whisper doubt. She didn't suggest they reconsider. She sat next to her partner with a calm, steady, unshakable smile and repeated the same words over and over. It's okay. Tomorrow, we'll get it all back. This wasn't empty comfort. It wasn't a cheerful platitude thrown at someone in pain. It was a statement of deep trust built over years of sharing the same ice, the same failures, the same relentless drive to get back up. Later, Miura told reporters with a laugh, "Ryuichi is usually the one pulling us forward, but that night, I had to be the big sister." I want you to sit with that sentence for a second. A 24-year-old woman at the most pressure-filled competition of her life, on the night of her most crushing setback, chose to set aside her own heartbreak and become the emotional backbone for the person who needed her most. That's not a technique you can train. That's a way of living that eventually reveals itself when everything is on the line. I've never been more moved by a single sentence from an athlete, because those words didn't come from a training manual. They came from the depths of who she actually is. That night, they made peace with the failure. They carried it forward not to forget it, but to use it. And they went to sleep. February 16th, free program day. As other skaters completed their runs, Miura and Kihara waited, and people who saw their faces that morning said something had changed. Not desperation, not forced confidence. Something deeper, a quiet, burning certainty. Then they stepped onto the ice. Their music, Gladiator, the story of a Roman warrior who endures brutal adversity while refusing to surrender his dignity. When the program was originally designed, no one could have predicted how perfectly that soundtrack would mirror this exact moment. But somehow, through some strange alchemy of timing and fate, the music, the moment, and the skaters became one. The opening triple twist lift landed. Clean, high, perfect. The kind of lift that erases nightmares. The arena's energy shifted instantaneously. The triple loop, double axel combination, each landing met with spontaneous gasps from the crowd. Then came that lift, the exact element that had collapsed 24 hours earlier. This moment was never just about technique. The human brain is wired to remember pain. It's built to protect you from repeating failure. So executing that same lift flawlessly, fearlessly, was never a physical challenge. It was a mental one. Kihara lifted Miura into the air with total conviction. Stable rotation, perfect position, zero hesitation. Former Olympic silver medalist and commentator Daisuke Takahashi completely lost his composure and shouted, "This performance is out of this world." Every element, the death spiral, the throw jumps merged seamlessly with the music into something that transcended sport entirely. In the stands, Japanese team skater Kaori Sakamoto was seen crying openly as she watched. She wasn't crying as a fan. She was crying as a fellow warrior, someone who understood firsthand the depth of preparation, the sleepless nights, the razor-thin margin between glory and disaster. Her tears were the highest form of respect one competitor can pay another. When the program ended, Miura punched the air with everything she had. Kihara dropped to his knees, his face crumbling with emotion he could no longer contain. The arena erupted into a standing ovation. Then the scores appeared. Free program, 158.13, an all-time world record. Total, 231.21, from 5th place to gold. When I watched the footage, I understood instantly why out of this world wasn't an exaggeration. Technically, yes, there may be skaters who match their precision, but no one could have delivered that exact program in that exact context, with that exact level of human courage. Those 4 minutes weren't a skating performance. They were a record of human resilience. When all scores were finalized and the results confirmed first place, Miura and Kihara, gold medal, something extraordinary happened. Instead of screaming, instead of collapsing into tears of joy, instead of throwing her arms around her partner in wild celebration, Riku Miura turned to the rival pairs seated beside her and began to clap quietly, genuinely, with total presence. In the minutes that followed, competitors who had just gone head-to-head with them came over, exchanged hugs, and celebrated each other's performances. Former U.S. skater Ashley Kane captured the moment on video and shared it to social media, and it spread everywhere. Her words were simple. The sportsmanship at this competition has been genuinely moving. These moments beyond the podium are the ones that leave the greatest legacy. Thousands of comments poured in, from every country, in every language, all saying the same thing. Japan and the world's pride. They won as competitors and as human beings. And I want to be really clear about something. Reducing that applause to Japanese modesty or cultural politeness completely misses the point. Yes, cultural background shapes us, But what Miura demonstrated in that moment went far beyond any cultural programming. In the single most emotionally charged instant of her athletic life, she still had the imagination to consider the experience of the people around her. That kind of depth isn't trained in a week. It's built through years of how you choose to live every single day. There is a concept in Japanese aesthetics called ma, the idea that silence and empty space carry the deepest meaning. And there is the philosophy of Bushido, the way of the samurai, which holds that true strength isn't measured by how you defeat your opponent, but by how you conduct yourself afterward. In Milan, in 2026, a 24-year-old woman embodied centuries of that philosophy in a single quiet gesture. The BBC, American sports networks, Korean media, Chinese social platforms, Brazilian columnists, Italian fans, all of them covered this story. Not primarily for the scoreline, for the gesture. A Brazilian outlet ran a column titled, "The Most Beautiful Message from Milan." An Italian fan wrote that they came to our city and won not just as athletes, but as human beings. A parent in the US posted that they showed their daughter this video because it was the most important lesson they could give her, and that post was reshared hundreds of thousands of times. For the first time in a long time, I understood what people actually mean when they say sports transcends language. Scores and rankings mean different things to different cultures. But that applause? Every human being on Earth understood what it meant, instantly, without translation. Let me bring this home with 3 things I think apply far beyond the ice. The strength of a team is determined by whether people feel safe enough to fall apart. Kihara could cry for hours that night because he knew someone was there to catch him. The ability to recover from collapse depends entirely on who's sitting next to you when you hit the floor. The greatest teams aren't the ones where everyone performs strength, they're the ones where people can show weakness and still come back and break world records the next morning. Don't erase your failures, use them. Miura didn't tell Kihara to forget the short program. She helped him reframe it as the first half of a story that wasn't finished yet. Their music choice Gladiator wasn't a coincidence. The short program mistake wasn't the ending. It was the setup. That mindset applies to every failure in every area of life. Stop staring at your 73.11. Start asking what your 158.13 looks like tomorrow. And finally, how you win determines whether your victory becomes a record or a legacy. Records get broken. What Riku Miura did in those quiet seconds after the gold was confirmed, that doesn't get broken. It gets remembered. It gets taught to the next generation. Here's my personal conclusion, and I want you to really hear this. The most remarkable thing about Milan 2026 isn't that they won the gold medal. It's that they won something far harder to earn: the world's genuine respect. The ice in Milan has long since melted, but that applause, those few seconds of quiet grace, will keep moving people for generations. Ryuichi Kihara and Riku Miura didn't just show the world what championship skating looks like. They showed the world what championship humanity looks like: strong and kind. At the same time, without apology, in front of everyone. That's the standard they've set. And that standard doesn't expire. Which moment from this story hit you the hardest? Was it Kihara's tears in that hotel room? Miura's 4 words, "I was the big sister"? Or that silent, stunning applause? Drop it in the comments. Your words might become the next person's turning point. If this story moved you, hit that like button. It genuinely helps more people find it. And if you want more stories about the human beings behind the results, subscribe. We'll be here. Thanks for staying until the end. I'll see you in the next one.